I want to begin this video by being completely direct with you. If you are over 60 and you spend the majority of your day sitting, something is happening in your legs right now that deserves your attention. Not tomorrow, not after this video, now. And if you have been noticing things, if your ankles look a little puffy by dinner time, if your legs feel heavier and achier in the afternoon than they did in the morning, if your feet feel stiff and sore the first time you stand up after sitting for a while, I want you to understand that those are not random inconveniences. Those are signals. Your body is telling you something in the clearest language it has, the language of physical sensation, and it has been telling you for a while. I am Sandra Whitmore, certified physical therapist, and today I want to help you understand what those signals mean and show you 3 specific exercises that can start addressing the underlying problem today. Not eventually, not after a long build-up, today. Because the circulatory system responds quickly when you give it what it needs. Give it the right stimulus and you will feel the difference within minutes. Before we get to the exercises, though, I want to tell you about George. George was 68 years old when his wife first brought him in to see me. She had insisted he come, and he had agreed in the way many men of a certain generation agree to things their wives insist upon, with a certain diplomatic compliance that masked a certain amount of skepticism. He sat across from me in my office and said, "I am basically here to make my wife happy, so tell me whatever you need to tell me." His wife was a retired nurse, the kind of woman who observes people with a clinical habit she never fully turned off, and she had been watching George's left leg for several weeks. By evening, his left ankle was consistently more swollen than the right. There was a faint reddish-brown discoloration developing along the inner side of his left ankle. The kind of discoloration that happens when red blood cells leak through the walls of chronically congested veins and deposit their iron-containing pigment in the surrounding tissue. It is called hemosiderin staining, and it does not appear overnight. It appears when a venous problem has been present long enough to leave a mark. And when she pressed her finger gently into the skin above his ankle bone and removed it, the indentation stayed there for several seconds before slowly filling back in. Pitting edema, fluid in the tissue. George had noticed none of this himself. He had noticed that his legs felt heavier than they used to by the end of the day, that there was an aching in his calves that had become so familiar he had stopped registering it as unusual. He had filed these things under old age and moved on. His wife brought him to his doctor. An ultrasound showed no clot. The doctor told him to watch it and exercise more. George sat with that advice for a few weeks, did not know what it meant in practical terms, and at his wife's continued urging, came to see me. When I did his intake and asked him to walk me through a typical day, the picture clarified quickly. George woke up, had breakfast at the kitchen table, and then moved to his home office where he was managing bookkeeping for his son-in-law's small business. He sat at that desk for 3 to 4 hours each morning, then lunch, then sometimes a nap in his recliner, then more time in the chair, watching sports or reading, dinner, television, bed. On a typical day, George was covering somewhere between 600 and 1,000 steps, less than half a mile. For a man whose left leg was already showing clear signs of developing chronic venous insufficiency, that level of movement was nowhere near sufficient to counteract the hours of circulatory stagnation his lifestyle was producing. I explained the venous pump to George the way I explain it to everyone, because understanding the mechanism is what converts skeptics into motivated patients. I told him about the calf muscles and how they are designed to squeeze the veins with each step and push blood back up toward the heart. I told him about the one-way valves and how they depend on muscular contraction to do their work. I told him what happens when those muscles are not contracting because you are sitting still. George was an accountant. He understood systems. He understood what happens when a system is not maintained. He listened carefully, asked several good questions, and then asked the one I want to spend the rest of this video answering. He said, "Sandra, I have arthritis in both knees. Walking any significant distance is painful. Standing for long periods makes my knees ache. If the conventional exercise advice is not workable for me, what can I actually do?" And that is the question. That is the question that millions of older adults are sitting with right now. They want to do the right thing. They are willing to put in the effort. They just need someone to give them a specific answer that works for their specific body. Here is my answer to George and my answer to you. You do not need to walk more to improve your leg circulation. You need to move your legs more. And there is a profound difference between those two statements. Walking is one specific form of leg movement. Its circulatory benefit comes primarily from the rhythmic contraction of your calf muscles as you push off the ground with each step. But you can produce that exact same muscular contraction while seated, at your desk, in your recliner, at the kitchen table, anywhere you are sitting, without standing up, without walking anywhere, without putting any load through your arthritic knees. The circulation in your legs does not care whether you are upright or seated. It cares whether the muscles that feed the venous pump are contracting. Contract them, and the pump runs. Neglect them, and the pool fills up. So here are the 3 movements I gave George. I call them the 3 core circulation moves. And I chose them because together they activate the venous pump system comprehensively, from the very tips of your toes up through your thighs, in a way that is achievable for almost anyone, regardless of joint pain, balance limitations, or general mobility constraints. Core circulation move number 1, the ankle pump with toe spread. Sit in your chair with your feet flat on the floor. Slowly flex your feet upward, pulling your toes toward the ceiling as high as they will comfortably go. Then press your feet back down, pointing your toes toward the floor. That is the basic ankle pump. Here is the modification that makes it significantly more effective. At the top of the movement, when your toes are pointing up, spread them apart as widely as you can, fanning them out the way you might spread the fingers of your hand. Then, as you press back down, bring your toes back together, spread on the way up, together on the way down. Your foot contains an extensive network of small veins and lymphatic vessels, threaded between the bones and through the soft tissues, including between the toes. When you spread your toes, you activate the intrinsic muscles of the foot, the small muscles that live entirely within the foot itself. These muscles, when they contract, create gentle compression and release within that vascular network. The result is circulatory stimulation that begins at the very tips of your toes and propagates upward. You are clearing the whole pipe, not just the middle of it. George was skeptical when I demonstrated this. He moved his toes, looked up at me and said, "This is going to help my circulation?" I said, "George, do 20 repetitions and then tell me what you notice." He did 20. He looked at his feet. He said, "They are warmer." They were, because the blood had moved. Do 20 repetitions of the ankle pump with toe spread. Rest 30 seconds. Do another 20. Aim for 4 to 6 sets distributed throughout your day, every time you have been sitting for more than 30 minutes. Core circulation move number 2, the seated isometric calf press. This is the exercise I most often prescribe to patients with significant joint limitations. and it is one of the most underappreciated exercises in all of circulation therapy, because it produces powerful venous stimulation with essentially no joint movement whatsoever. Sit up straight in your chair, feet flat on the floor. Now press the balls of your feet firmly downward, as if you are trying to push the floor away from you. You should feel your calf muscles engage and harden. Hold that contraction for 5 full seconds, then release completely. Hold for 5. Release for 5. That is 1 repetition. This is an isometric exercise. Isometric means the muscle is developing tension without the joint moving through its range. The floor is not going anywhere no matter how hard you press against it. But your calf muscle contracts in response to the effort, and that contraction squeezes your veins and pushes blood upward through the one-way valves, exactly the way a dynamic movement would. I have a patient named Helen, 74 years old, who has severe osteoarthritis in both ankles. Traditional ankle pumps were too painful for her. When I introduced her to the seated calf press, everything opened up. She could do it without any pain because she did not have to move her ankle joint at all. She just pressed her feet into the floor. Her calves contracted. Her veins responded. And within 6 weeks, the swelling in her ankles had reduced noticeably. Within 3 months, she was wearing shoes in the afternoon that she had previously been unable to put on until evening because her feet and ankles were no longer too swollen to fit into them. She called them her afternoon shoes. She was proud of those afternoon shoes in a way that moved me. Do 10 isometric calf presses, 5 seconds each as 1 set. Rest for 60 seconds. Repeat for a total of 3 to 4 sets throughout your day. Core circulation move number 3. The seated leg lift with flex and point. This is the most demanding of the 3 exercises and also the most comprehensive. It is the movement that provides the fullest circulatory stimulation across the greatest length of your leg, and it is the one George told me he could feel most powerfully working. From your seated position, straighten one leg out in front of you and hold it parallel to the floor. Your quadriceps will have to contract to hold the weight of your leg up. Now, with your leg extended, flex your foot, pulling your toes toward you as firmly as you can. Hold the flex for 2 full seconds. Then point your foot, pushing your toes away from you as far as you can. Hold the point for 2 seconds. Flex, hold, point, hold. Do that sequence 5 times with your leg extended. Then lower your foot and repeat on the other side. The quadriceps contraction required to hold your leg extended provides strong activation of the front of thigh musculature. The rhythmic flexing and pointing creates dynamic tension and release all the way through your gastrocnemius, soleus, and hamstring. These muscles run alongside your major leg veins. Their rhythmic contraction and relaxation creates a massaging, pumping effect on those vessels that is arguably the most powerful you can achieve from a seated position. George became devoted to this movement. He told me at his 3-month follow-up that it was the exercise he looked forward to most because he could feel it working so clearly. He said he could feel blood moving in his calf when he held the extension. That kinesthetic awareness, that sensory feedback from your own body, is profoundly motivating. Once you feel what an exercise is doing, you want to keep doing it. Do 5 flex and point sequences per leg as 1 complete set. Rest and repeat for 3 sets total, distributed across your day. Now let me put the full program together in terms you can act on starting today. Morning session, before your first extended period of sitting. 2 sets of the ankle pump with toe spread, 2 sets of seated calf presses, 2 sets of the seated leg lift with flex and point. Total time, 4 to 5 minutes. Midday session, around the middle of your sitting day. Repeat the full sequence. Afternoon session, around 3 to 4 in the afternoon, which is typically when venous pooling and edema peak. Repeat the sequence. Consider following it with 10 minutes of leg elevation, feet raised above the level of your heart, to give gravity a role in clearing accumulated fluid. Evening session, after dinner. 1 final gentle round, slow and comfortable. 4 sessions, roughly 15 to 20 minutes of targeted movement spread across the entire day. That is your minimum effective dose for addressing circulation through exercise when walking is limited. George followed this program every day for 3 months. At his follow-up appointment, the swelling asymmetry his wife had been watching for months had resolved. She could no longer tell his left ankle from his right. The pitting edema was gone. George sat across from me that day and said something I have thought about many times since. He said, "Sandra, I came in here to make my wife happy. I am leaving here because this worked." He shook my hand. I told him the work was his. The exercises were mine. The doing was his. The improvement belonged entirely to him. That is always true. I want to close this video with the smallest possible challenge. Tomorrow morning, before you do anything else, before your coffee, before your phone, before the news, sit on the edge of your bed and do 20 ankle pumps. Just 20, 30 seconds. That is your starting line. Because the gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it is the hardest gap to cross. And the only way to cross it is one small step at a time. 20 ankle pumps every morning, until your feet feel warmer every morning, until your ankles look different by evening, until your legs feel like your legs again. You can do this from your couch. No excuses. 5 minutes a day changes everything for your legs. I am Sandra Whitmore. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next video.